The first approach to fevers shouldn't be medications, and I will explain why. So if you're looking for natural ways to support your child in a fever, please watch to the end of this video. You're just going to be learning so much. So firstly, I want to say that fevers are good for your child. Yes, it sounds horrible. Even as a parent, I find it difficult to accept that, but I want you to know that fevers is a natural way, or is the body's natural mechanism of fighting off illness. And sometimes if you allow the fever run its course, it helps to fight off infections even faster than medications. It sounds crazy, but I will explain. Now, fever is literally either your child's body's way of saying, I identify that there is something not going well, and I'm releasing an army, and I'm releasing, fire to kind of go destroy it, or to, to get it out, or to chase it away. So, but when you suppress fever, when you provide things like Tylenol, ibuprofen, or whatever it is, depending on where you're watching from, as a first response, you are denying the body the opportunity to fight. It's just like, you telling the US Army, or you telling, whatever country that you're watching from, telling your army, hey, just allow these people defeat you, don't fight back, even when you have the ability to fight, right? So fever is your body's, it is literally the body's way of fighting off illness. So fever also triggers immune response that prevent the virus and the bacteria from replicating, or from, increasing. So when you allow the fever run its course, and, rather than suppressing it, empower the body to fight the illness, you are doing a good job. And guess what? Not only are you going to see your child get healed, but you are also building the child's immune system to fight more. So, but I know some people will say, okay, but Amara, there are times when, I have waited for a long time. We're going to talk about the times where medications are also, where it could be necessary. But the first thing I want you to get from this is that your first approach, like if you, touch your child, if you check and your child is having a fever, your first approach should not be Tylenol, ibuprofen, or whatever painkiller or fever reducing medication that you have in your cabinet. Your first approach should be, how can I empower my child? How can I strengthen the immune system to fight off whatever bacteria or virus that the body is detecting? Did you get that? If you got it, type I got it in the chat, okay? So then the next thing I also want to talk about is fever reducing medication. So for medications like Tylenol and ibuprofen, most of these medications, especially Tylenol here in the US, they deplete the body's glutathione levels. I'm going to put that here. And and also sometimes if taken for long term, could harm the liver. Yes, some people are like, oh yes, I've taken Tylenol, but we do not want it to be that for every fever that your child gets, Tylenol is literally the first thing you're doing. If taken long term, they could deplete the glutathione levels, and you do not want that, right? So yes, there are times where these fever reducing medications could be very, very needed. I have used it before, right? But it has never been a first approach for us as a family, okay? But now let's talk about some fun things. So if I'm not giving Tylenol, what else should I do? Hold on, I'm going to talk about that. The first thing is hydration. So if your child is having a fever, the first thing you need to do, rather than looking for Tylenol, is make sure your child is well hydrated. One of my favorite sources of hydration are, for us, of course, water, or you can provide homemade Pedialyte. In my book here, I shared, a homemade Pedialyte you can make at home. You can also provide electrolyte. Please make sure that it's from a good, it's from a reputable brand, because most brands just have sugars and artificial flavors that are, at that time of illness, you do not want to add any other thing, that is not, right for the body. Also, you can also offer breast milk or formula if your child is breastfeeding or formula feeding. You can also offer bone broth and some soothing herbal tea. So at that time, for the most part, your child will not be eating so much, but we want to make sure that they are very well hydrated. Another thing you could do is detox bath. So I use two particular products. I'm going to put a picture here. I use the Rocasa or the Early Detox bath, and it is just getting filling the tub with water, with warm water that is typically the temperature of your child, and allowing them soaking into that that water. It helps to relieve pains and just pull off whatever toxins or whatever, what it helps to relieve the pain and also provide some calm and soothing effect. Another thing you could do while allowing the fever run its course is provide nourishing foods. Yes, so even if it's a spoon of food, so things like soup, bone broth soup, meat stock, beef liver meals, fruits, vegetables, things like blueberries, they are high in antioxidants, sweet potatoes, salmon, sardines, whatever your child is able to eat, oatmeal, like nutrient dense oatmeal, whatever your child is able to eat. But at that time, even if they're like, oh, I want ice cream, or I want chocolate, or I want cookies, that's not a great time to serve food. And as a matter of fact, if the fever is accompanied with things like cough, congestion, or sore throat, you don't also want to serve foods that will increase the mucus in your child's body at that time. So you want to serve nourishing foods. Soups are your very good bet, and fruits, vegetables would help a lot. Okay, and then you can go to herbal or natural remedies. So for example, in my book here, I have one of my favorite fever teas. I call it my fever tea. It's just made up of dried elderflowers and peppermint leaves. So making this as a tea and having them sip through it, that would also help a lot. But in most cases, that tea literally brings down the fever in like under 24 hours. So you can also offer natural remedies. Personally, I like to increase the vitamins I provide during illness. So vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D. Vitamin D I use is a combination of D3 and K2. I also provide things like zinc, elderberry. Now, to help with fever, I also recommend to my family and my friends like this natural remedy for fever. Now, it does not suppress the fever, it helps the body release the heat and fight off infection. So why on this other side the Tylenol says, hey, you know what, no more fighting, it's okay, bring down the temperature, this one says, hey, let's release the heat. The natural remedy says, hey, let's release the heat, let's fight off this illness and get it done. So I love the natural one, and I use the Early Feel Better Fast and Temperature Tamer from Dr. Green Life Organic. So and I just explained why I use that, right? So another thing you could do is massage. It works. I never miss it, right? I recently posted a reel on Instagram, and I shared literally what I did for my son when he last had a fever, right? So massaging with things like magnesium cream would help give your child a soothing effect, calm them down, help them sleep well. And if they're kind of like fussy, if he's an infant or a toddler and they're like, oh, and they're crying a lot, that magnesium cream would really truly calm them down and help them sleep better. I also massage with essential oils. Sometimes you need to use lavender, sometimes you need to use a particular one, but I love the combination of the essential oils in this baby immune essential oil, because I just put them under the feet, on the spine, and literally where there are veins. And this alone, just doing that would help it will help, number one, it will help support the body to fight off illness. And you may find that by the time you do this 2, 3, 4 times, you may not really need Tylenol. And going back to what we discussed at the beginning, you are empowering the body to fight off this illness. Does that make sense? So if you got it, type I got it on the chat. Okay, and then the one final thing you can do to ensure that you can do while allowing the fever run its course is sleep. Yes, it sounds simple, but it is true. Sleep. This allow, when your child has a fever, their body is fighting. So at that time, you will see them weak. They may not be able to do so that's not a time to say, hey, okay, watch TV or have a screen time. Just let them sleep, especially if you've provided natural remedies, you've given them teas, you've provided, whatever it is that they need. You've given them a warm bath, you've given them food. Just allow them sleep for as long as they can, sleep at a time, because that also helps the body to fight well and heal well. Now let's talk a little bit more about natural remedies. I want to say that all natural remedies are not equal. Yes, they could be natural remedies, they are not equal. So for example, with elderberry, you see this brand here that I use. It is just made up, when you look at the ingredient, it is organic, and when you look at the ingredient, it is made up of just elderberry and filtered water. While this other brand here, still the same elderberry, has other added preservative, it has other added ingredients that may not be necessary. So when looking out for natural remedies, the quality and the sourcing is also as important as the natural remedy. And that's why in my book here, I took the time to talk about how to source for reputable brands, what to look out for. Personally, I love to look out for brands that that take the time to use real ingredients, source their ingredients correctly, and they are third-party tested. So don't just say, oh, okay, because I'm saying this because you could just watch the video and you're like, okay, let me just go get elderberry on Amazon. To be very honest, I go to the grocery store every time, and one of my most favorite things I love to do is to check for stores that are consistently adding good and natural brands to their shelves. And to be very honest, it's very hard, except you go to stores like Whole Foods, except you go to stores like Sprouts. But for the most part, it is very hard to find good quality natural remedy in the store, except you want to just get the ingredients and make at home. Then you can actually make at home. So if you are buying, make sure you are looking at the ingredients, make sure you're looking at the sourcing, and so that you get the best quality possible. But in my book here, I did the whole job for you. I talked about brands that I dedicated a chapter to just talking about brands that are reputable, that you can source for supplements from. And I have a free fever guide and also my book. I'll link it in the chat, in the description box, if it is something that you would find helpful. But I hope this was very helpful, and I want you to know that yes. So let's talk about, when do I need to see a doctor or give medications. Number one, if your child is an infant under 3 months, or an infant even under 1 month, you need to go to the ER. If your child is acting unlike themselves and they are in serious pain, complaining of discomfort, you need to either give medications or take them to the ER, right? So, but I would say use your discretion. You know what is longer than normal. You're the one with the child. I personally have given my child Tylenol after like 3-4 days of doing all the natural stuff, and I see that the fevers he's not really getting himself. So sometimes my benchmark is usually 3-4 days, but you would see and know what works for you, okay? But I hope this was helpful. If you want to learn more about natural remedies, I have a very good resource for you. This is a book on natural remedies for common childhood illnesses. It has natural home remedies. It is not a medical advice, but it is, if you're looking towards doing things more naturally and more holistically, this is a resource that will help you. I cover a range of natural remedies that you can do at home to help your child recover and to support your child during illness. So please don't forget to subscribe and leave your questions in the comments. I will get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.